And as you can see, Rocky's here in studio with me, and it was supposed to go better than this, but we've had nothing but tech issues since the get-go. And now Rocky's sitting right next to me. He's basically almost in my lap, so that's how close we are. You had coffee right before you got here. I could smell it.
Yeah, I did. This is bad.
Yeah. Well, we must power through the technical difficulties. So thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Spurs Rewind. Me and Rocky are here in studio, and we're going to be joined by the lovely Vicky Vic. Vicky, how's your day going?
It's going well. Doing nice. Can't believe it's Wednesday.
Already it's Wednesday.
I
You know,
know.
and
Hi,
it's still cold.
Michael.
It's still cold. And you know what Rocky said before we came on? He said that he's guaranteeing that the Spurs aren't going to win tonight and get Coach Pop that one victory that he needs.
No.
Yeah. So you can have Adam, Vicky. I said I'm going to the game, and I hope they win, make history while I'm
Yeah.
there at the game during Coyotes, bobblehead night, and it's the Coyotes' birthday. What better day to win, right?
Yes, exactly. They're gonna win. Spurs
Yeah.
are
So
gonna win.
here comes our first topic. Coach Pop is only one win away from becoming the most winningest coach in NBA history. Can the Spurs get Coach Pop that win during their game? You know, their 7-game homestand tonight. And what will this mean not only for Coach Pop but also for the franchise? I mean, what do you think that would mean if he does in fact get that victory tonight? What is it going to mean for Pop and for the franchise?
I mean, it's gonna sort of set the Spurs. They're already, I think, on this elite stage that they've been on since, winning all the championships and having the big three, Tim Duncan. I mean, all of that. All of that stuff has set them apart from a lot of the other teams in the NBA. So I think that having the coach who is like across every category, the winningest coach, I think that's just gonna be like the icing on the cake for them. And then in terms of what it means for like this current squad, I think that it's just going to mean a lot to them that that's a big accomplishment. Um, we know that this hasn't been the best year for these guys because they're young, they're learning, missing pieces, and all of that. But if they can get this win, I think that that's a huge victory for them, and they're looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big victory for Coach Pop. I mean, and he's also, gone as far as even saying, telling the guys in the media, he doesn't want to have any questions asked of the win, if he in fact gets the win. And when it does happen, he doesn't want that to be the focal point. He wants to talk about the game itself, whether they win or they lose, rather talk about the players. That's such a Coach Pop thing to do. But I
Mhm.
mean, you got to kind of respect his wishes because if that one reporter or journalist that's there ask him that question, it ruins everything for everybody else because no
Yeah,
one else is going to get to ask him questions. He's going to shut the door and just walk off. So you hope that
exactly.
they don't make much fanfare about it in the media. After the game they can talk about it, but don't you all dare ask Coach Pop about the win and what it means to him. He'll tell you probably during like warm-ups or something before the next game. you know
Right.
Rocky, what is this win going to mean to Coach Pop, the franchise in particular? What is it going to mean to you, because you already said they're not going to win?
I mean, I know I did say that, but I mean, it'd be good if they do win. I think that mostly it would mean really big to San Antonio, just because it would kind of be like a pre-Fiesta, two Fiesta that's coming up. Just growing up and seeing Coach having all these players that came, I think it would be a big thing just for us to finally see us as fans, see Pop get that record and truly be appreciated. I know he hasn't been really appreciated throughout the years, and people proclaim Phil Jackson as the GOAT, but he has a big recognition, and it's gonna be cool seeing a lot of probably most likely fans, players, and coaches just give that praise to Pop. And then I can't wait to see if Twitter. I hope I get proven wrong that he wins tonight, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm hoping they win. Like I said, I'll be at the game. I want to be there to witness history.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I'm going to go with my friend Jonas Clark. Jonas has never gone to a Spurs game before, so this is going to be his first Spurs game that he's going to attend, Vicky. And I would love
What?
for him to go to the game, and then they win for Coach Pop. I mean, that
Yes.
would be the icing on the cake. I know, right, Vicky?
I
He's never
can't
gone.
believe that.
Maybe Jonas might be good luck.
Hopefully he is good luck.
Yeah. So another thing we're going to talk about here is the Austin Spurs. They played at the AT&T Center last night, and a lot of the Spurs players showed up to kind of support the team. Just some of the names that we saw from the pictures, both on social media for the San Antonio Spurs and also the Austin Spurs as well. We saw Josh Primo, Jakob Poeltl, Tre Jones, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, Josh Richardson, Jock Landale. They were all at the game. Unfortunately, the Spurs lost to the Agua Caliente Clippers by a final score of 124 to 118. So I like the fact that the Austin Spurs did come and play at the AT&T Center, and so many of the younger Spurs players came out to support the team because they're friends with like Wieskamp and some of the other younger core out there. It means a lot, when you come out and you support your teammates. And they were just having fun. They were hanging out with some of the fans, some of the people that I know that were there, took pictures with some of the players because they got courtside seats, and they took one of my friends, Taro. He's visiting from Japan, and we'll talk about him. He took some pictures with some of the players, so that was a pretty cool experience for everybody that was in attendance there. And to top it all off, it was dollar beer night, so it's always a good time when it's dollar beer night, Vicky.
Yep, that's true.
I don't know if you got to see the game or not, or you got to see any of the highlights, but I mean, what did you think about the Spurs playing at the AT&T Center, and then about the players coming out and supporting them?
I thought it was really cool. I didn't get to see the game, but I did see that a lot of the Spurs players went to go, cheer them on and all that. I think it's great building that, sort of camaraderie between the G League and the NBA guys. I think it's awesome. That must have felt good for the Austin Spurs to have the Spurs there cheering them on. And like you said, Joe Wieskamp, he's there with the guys sometimes in the locker room. And then of course Primo has been with these guys for the majority of the season. So it's just good show of support, showing, the kind of guys that these Spurs are and what's expected of them in this franchise.
Yeah. So I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a good show of support from all these players that went out. And Rocky, what did you think about the Spurs players just coming out and supporting their teammates? At the Austin Spurs. What'd you think?
I think it kind of goes to show that as much as fans hate when the Spurs get sent to the G League, it shows that they really support it, and just evident that it's kind of like, to me, I'm not saying that these players aren't good enough when they're in the G League, because if you're making it to the NBA, you're still a very established player. You're better than most people in the world. As some people will say, well, he's in the G League, he may not be good, he's a scrub, or he plays on the bench, he's not a scrub. They're still in the NBA for a reason, and if you think about it, any G League or bench player will still beat anyone easily. No, normal guy, normal average Joe one-on-one. But I think it's just real important to show the fans that who aren't really seeing the Austin Spurs, because it's in Austin, some fans are in San Antonio who aren't making the drive up there, just to give them some exposure. And I think it was a pretty cool thing that Joe was saying, that those fans who got courtside tickets maybe never got to sit courtside, so they get that experience and they saw some of the Spurs players, so that it kind of feels like it's a real game, and you got to get that interaction with them. So that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, we got a viewer watching us on YouTube right now, Tim Mendiola, and he says Kaycock needs some playing time. Yeah, he does, and usually he gets some playing time if he's playing with the Austin Spurs. Maybe once in a while, Coach Bob might insert him there to get some garbage minutes. But I think Kaycock right now, he's injured, or they have him with the Austin G League. I think from the last time I remember seeing the Spurs injury update. So hopefully he can get some playing time before the season ends, because I know a lot of fans do like to watch some Devontae Kaycock. What a name, what a name. So let's go ahead and get to the next topic here on the docket here. And it's talking about my friend Taro. I got to hang out with the number one Spurs fan from Japan, the one and only Taro Kotani, over the weekend. And this marks Taro's 17th trip to San Antonio. Me and Taro became friends a couple of years ago, and we've just kept in touch. And every time he comes into town, we hang out and have a good time. I picked him up on Friday, and we kind of hung out. He got to go see the Mayor Ron Nirenberg. And I also took him out for some drinks afterwards, took him to my local Hooters, as Rocky was saying. No wonder I go there, because it's so near my house. It's so close to my house.
It is.
Oh
And then
my
from
God.
Peaks, I took him there too. But Taro wasn't used to the American pores. We get those man-sized pores. So, yeah, Taro had a good time. It was an early night, let's put it like that. But he had a good time, and he also had a great time at the games when he first got here, because the Spurs gave him a Spurs fan box, as they did a lot of other fans, on social media that we saw, including myself. And I know Vicky was jealous she didn't get one. Um, but maybe next time, Vicky, we'll put in a good word for you.
Next year.
Yeah, next year. There's always a next time. But the
Yes.
first fan box they gave him was cool. They put in like a mug, and they gave him some hats and stuff. And they
That's
gave
so
him a
cool.
jersey as well. And on the back it says Taro. It says his name. So that was pretty cool. Um, like I said, he
Aw.
met the mayor. This morning he was on the Ticket 760 with our friend Chris Duell. So he got to kind of talk about his experience here. 17th trip, to San Antonio. And I know some
That's
reporters have also contacted him to do some stories on about him, because for all intents and purposes, Taro is arguably one of the best international Spurs fans that there is, because not only does he have a passion for the San Antonio Spurs, and he's been here 17 times. I mean, that's crazy to think about that. He's such a nice guy. He takes pictures with everybody. Anybody that wants to talk with him about the Spurs, he makes time to talk with everyone. Very approachable, very humble. I mean, you can't say enough good things about him. He's a good representation of, the extended fan base that the San Antonio Spurs have overseas. And he does hang out with the little group of people that are also rabid Spurs fans over in Japan. So that's pretty cool. So when we're watching the game here, sometimes Taro and his friends are actually sitting down somewhere watching the game as well. And they are decked out in their San Antonio Spurs jerseys. So how about that? So let's see what Michael says. Michael says, still haven't met Taro Kotani, but so much respect. He says, ultimate Spurs fan. Yes, he is a really good Spurs fan. And we have something else here by another viewer watching us. CM Drones. He says, good afternoon.
Go Spurs,
Yeah,
go.
Go Spurs goes. Romeo is going to be a star. Go Spurs go. I think he meant Primo. So thanks for watching either way. But Taro goes back on Saturday. Unfortunately, I won't see him again for another year. So I hope to hang out with him probably tonight, because I will be at the game hanging out with our good friend Jonas Clark. So maybe I get to see him while I'm there, and say happy birthday to the Spurs Coyote, and get a Spurs Coyote bobblehead.
That's
Maybe
so cool.
maybe if y'all behave here, I can get you an extra. One for you and Rocky.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do. I might have to steal one, full disclosure, but you'll still, I'm sure, receive the gift no matter what.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I wanted to go ahead and also talk about one Tre Jones, and look to see what Tre Jones has kind of been doing, because what happened with Tre is that he kind of got lost in the shuffle here a bit. We had Bryn Forbes to start the year off. We also had Derrick White, and then Coach Pop was also giving a ton of minutes to Lonnie Walker. So not many minutes to go around for Tre Jones, but now, that we've traded away Bryn Forbes and also Derrick White. Tre Jones now is looking like he's settling into that backup point guard position, quite well. And, just looking to see, let's see what Tre Jones has done over the course of the last couple of games. And I'm looking at his points per game, kind of his production, seeing as far as what he's done. We're going to go with the Miami game, because that one was a good one. He scored a total of 19 points in that game. Then we went, look at the Memphis game. He had 4 points. Sacramento, he had 7. Against the Hornets, he had only 6. The Lakers, he had 7. But it's a role he's having to get used to. He scored 19 points because he played 35 minutes. In the Memphis game, he only played 13. Sacramento, he played 20. Against the Hornets, played 20. And against the Lakers, he played 24. So I believe what's going on there is that, Coach Pop is probably giving Lonnie more run out there on the court, because Lonnie gets heated. He gets that. He's like the microwave. He heats up, he goes on a tear, and you don't want to mess with that. You're going to want to feed him until, his hot shooting it goes down or dies. But I think he's showing some promise, should I say, as far as the possibilities of him becoming that backup point guard. I mean, he's not bad. We could be in worse position, but what are your thoughts so far about one Tre Jones now that he is that bona fide, backup point guard, Vicky?
I think he's doing really well, rising to the occasion. Like you said, he didn't really have an opportunity before to play as many minutes as he's doing now. So I think this is really the first time we're seeing him being depended on as much. And he's doing a great job. I think he, he's showing a lot of confidence. I remember his first year. I can't remember when that was, but I remember when we would see him like in garbage time and he always seemed to me like very nervous and he would never try to take a shot. Like he had so many turnovers because he was just like running out the clock at the end of regulation. And it's nice to see him actually doing things. He's trying, he's driving in a lot. I really like how he can drive to the basket and he knocks down some really nice layups. Kind of old school looking layups because I feel like it's really rare to have a guard who is a backup, not like a star guard who's going to be driving to the lane and getting by all these big guys as successfully as he's been doing. So yeah, I think it's definitely an obvious shift since the Derrick White trade happened. Seeing him play more often, and I think he's going to stick around. For a while there, I was kind of like, there's too many guards. I don't know if they're going to keep Tre Jones. I think the Spurs value him right now, and he's doing a good job of making himself valuable.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Rocky? You've seen Tre Jones play here, getting more minutes, over the course of, the last couple games. You're kind of getting a gauge of what he can really do out there on the court. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, going into the season, everyone figured that Tre Jones was going to get the backup position right away. He was coming off a really strong summer league. People were really hype about to see what he was going to get run, but then we saw Bryn Forbes get most of his minutes. It's like, okay, like what went from praising Tre Jones of what he did in the that preseason, and then to seeing Bryn Forbes get most of the minutes. So it was kind of confusing me. But once Bryn obviously got traded, then Derrick got traded. Tre Jones stepped up to the game, and he's been producing and it's showing that he could be that backup point guard. He could be that Kojo type that we used to have, a George Hill type. But it's good to see that they can have a backup point guard. But I think it's a good problem for them to have. Tre has been limited in minutes, and as you mentioned, Lonnie is kind of like a microwave scorer. To me, Lonnie's like that 1-2K player that you bring off the bench, and he just hits every shot. Just know he's like a little cheat code to you. But then he's like saying he's tired, but you just keep playing him because it's a cheat code. But Lonnie just, he has his highs and his lows. But Lonnie and Tre, they bring two different things to the game. I think it's good to see that Tre's, blossom into his role. But once he gets really situated, it's a kind of a good problem that we're going to have because, it kind of gives Primo a little bit more time. We're not expecting Primo to be a bona fide superstar next year. He has all the talents and the tools that he needs, but Tre's there, and it's going to give the Spurs a good backup plan behind DeJounte. So we'll have to see what's going to go heading into next season.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what's going to happen heading into next season. Anything can happen, in the Spurs. They could draft another point guard or a shooting guard in the draft, much to the dismay of many Spurs fans, or they could pick somebody up, in the offseason, with free agency coming up. And that's going to be interesting to see what actually happens and how different this team looks. But right now, I kind of like what, Tre Jones is doing, and I look forward to seeing him grow and hope that he continues to get more minutes because I want to see what the young man can do, which brings us to another player that's kind of been on our radar. And we kind of talked about this same player in the last episode of the Spurs Rewind, and that would be one Lonnie Walker. Over the last 4 games he's played in, he's averaging 19.75 points per game. Lonnie's trending in the right direction, but is it enough to extend him an offer in the offseason? I'm on the fence about this. I mean, if you can get him cheap, take a chance. But if he commands a heftier price tag, you got to let him go because you're going to have to be able to move some cap space so you can go ahead and go after some big, maybe some other free agents, not big names. I don't believe there's a lot of people that are going to be available in the offseason, but you can go after some pieces that can complement what you already have. And that's the thing with Lonnie is that you see him trending in this right direction. You see him being a little bit more consistent, but he has never been consistent since he's been here. And with me, it would be too much of a gamble. There's a big gamble that you would have to take with, offering him an extension. Um, that means that you're not going to be able to go after somebody probably this season or even the season after because you signed Lonnie Walker. And not only that, but if you signed Lonnie, what does that mean with Primo? Is he going to get less and less minutes? What are you going to wind up doing with him? So there's a lot of variables there, but we'll start with you, Rocky. What do you think? Do you think Lonnie has shown you enough that you would go ahead and extend him in the offseason?
I think I'm on the fence with you, Joe. It might be a little too late. Lonnie is a super good guy in the community. He's done everything he's been asked for the Spurs, but he's just been so inconsistent that how it just confuses me to how many years he's been here and now he's showing this. I wanted to address Saul Calderon's comment where he put, "Would Spurs fans be mad if they drafted Jaden Ivey?" I kind of touched base with Joe about it. If and Vicky last week about if the Spurs drafted another guard. I understand Spurs fans would be mad if we drafted another guard, but you have someone like a Jaden Ivey who's been a pretty much of a stud at Purdue. He could be that that come in and get those minutes over say or replace such a Lonnie. You mean if a guard falls to you and the Spurs necessarily don't need it, but he's one of the top guards, wouldn't you want to bring another guard in and potentially fill your shooting guard role because then you can move Vassell to the small forward, maybe try to figure out the power forward position in free agency. But I think Lonnie, if given the right contract, he could come back. But I feel like you can find another Lonnie in the draft. The Spurs are armed with 3 draft picks this year, and I feel like you're gonna find another 3-and-D type player that Lonnie was expected to be. But the Spurs didn't really mold him into that role. They saw like his athleticism, his potential, and he just seemed out of sorts in all his years, and he kind of brought it down this year. But it's a little too late, and I'm hoping if he leaves, he gets a really good contract, gets his money. You wish the best for him, and he gets those more minutes and opportunity in a different situation.
Yeah, like again, it comes down to how much is he going to command in free agency, and are the Spurs willing to match? I mean, Vicky, what are your thoughts? Would you extend Lonnie, or would you just say, you know what, we appreciate everything you've done, but you got to go?
I think it depends. I think he's shown a lot, but like I know last week I was like, if he can continue this way through the end of the season, and then we had I don't know, there was one game in there where he did something, I don't know, 7 points. I may be exaggerating it, but it was something just out of nowhere that I was like, okay, why why? And it's the fact that he goes, 2 quarters and scores 30 points, and then the next 2 quarters he doesn't do much. That's still, I think, an issue. And like you said, if he's gonna take a lower contract, a lower price point, then I think it could work. It could fit. But then just like Rocky said, if they're looking for um roles to fill during the draft, or if they just go with the best player and that happens to be a guard, then yeah, Lonnie's probably the one who would be lowest on the Spurs current guard roster, who I think would have to go. So it definitely depends. I'm definitely not envious of the people having to make those decisions because I think there are pros and cons to both keeping him and letting him go. So yeah, I don't have a very strong idea on what they're gonna do at this point.
Our good friend John Diaz says, great 4 games for Lonnie that the Spurs all lost. And
That's
convinced
true.
me Primo wouldn't be able to do the same next season with proper development. And that's what I'm saying.
Preach, John, preach.
That's very true.
Why would you want to spend or overextend yourself on one Lonnie Walker when you have
Mhm.
Primo, which I think at this juncture has shown that he has a higher ceiling and more
Yeah.
promise. So if I'm the Spurs, I'm looking at that and I might go ahead and just say wave goodbye to one Lonnie Walker and go ahead and stick with Primo and see what he can do.
And I wanted to add, Joe, that especially if they leave Lonnie, you have Josh Richardson coming back, who had a pretty good game last game. So where does he fit in the equation? Does Josh Richardson replace Lonnie's minutes, and then that kind of solves you not having to draft a guard? I mean, like we keep mentioning, if best player falls to you, you have to draft him. But I
Mhm.
agree with John. Josh Primo could be the same player,
Yeah.
maybe better. I feel like Lonnie's reached his ceiling already, and Josh is only 18, so the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, we have another viewer watching us, Haiti B. She says maybe Romero Langford will get Lonnie's minutes. Maybe, you just never know what's going to happen in the upcoming NBA draft. Um, there's a lot of decisions the Spurs are going to have to make, and Josh Richardson could be
Yes.
one of those that even though he has a locker room presence, being a veteran and whatnot, he might just be one of these guys that you just have him in here for just one season and then he's gone.
But
And look at
he's really good.
John says
Yeah.
the same thing. Josh Richardson is such a good role player. Thank you, Rocky. Yeah, and I agree. He is, and he's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
veteran.
He just hasn't been getting minutes, and it's really
I
surprising. I thought
know.
he'd be getting minutes right away, and it's been surprising that Romeo hasn't got minutes. But I felt like Romeo would be seeing those G League minutes. But Josh Richardson's a pretty solid player. I mean, just when he was with the Miami Heat, he was averaging a pretty double
Yeah.
digits. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's
a
some
lot
pretty
of things
good.
to think about, but I'm going to go around the horn real quick here because we're pressed for time. There are only 17 games left in the season. I know it's coming to an end quickly, Vicky, unfortunately for all of us.
I
But
know.
what have been some of your best moments so far? As you watch the games, of even maybe you've attended a couple of games, what have been some of your best moments that you've experienced?
Oh gosh.
Or a favorite moment, should I say?
My
she's gonna say
favorite moment?
I know it's going to be
The
the kiss cam. Has to be.
I mean, on a personal level, yes, making the kiss cam was probably like that's like life goals, you know?
We should have rated the kiss now that I think about it.
Oh my No, but I mean, there have been really the season has been filled with a lot of good. I think even in losses, and I said this the other day in a post, it's hard because, as Spurs fans, we hate seeing them lose, but there have been games that they play so well and they still lose. And it's like, they came back, they fought, they didn't give up. And I guess it's kind of like it's a season-long trend. The fact that there are a lot more games where they did not give up. And they play through the end, whether they win or lose. I think that's made me happy and been reassuring because, we all know that this is a rebuilding team. And I think they know that, the chances of them going to the playoffs weren't high or haven't been super high. So it's nice to see them fighting and trying because I remember times watching the Spurs who were first seed and, they'd get to the end of the game and kind of just stop trying and it'd be like, okay, whatever. And that would be frustrating to me. So seeing these guys, knowing that they've lost, and they're still trying and they're still getting better. That's reassuring to me. And that's been probably the highlight of watching this season. And I think they're on the way, in the next two, maybe even next season. I think they're going to be way improved and it's going to be, really eye opening for a lot of people.
So I think it's safe to say you're going to wind up getting your Primo jersey next year.
Probably.
well, it's to say promo instead.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to say promo. Yeah, promo.
Oh my gosh, that would bug me so much.
It would bug Josh too, our good friend Josh Primo.
Yeah.
So, Rocky, what has been your favorite moment so far in the season?
I know that may sound weird, but I find joy in them just figuring it out themselves. I know it sucks seeing them lose, and like it was obviously such a joy, seeing them have success year after year. But it's beautiful to see them finally committing to a rebuild into a young, trending team. Because last year when they were in the play-in, having to watch DeMar DeRozan, who's a hell of a player, no doubt, one of the Spurs' best players, and he's balling out with Chicago, and seeing Rudy Gay just brick shots after shots after shots, and seeing LaMarcus just shoot shots after shots, it was just so stagnant and boring. It made me more irritated seeing them do what they're doing because DeJounte most likely wouldn't took that jump if we're still living in that phase. We were living such in a phase of like trying to piece everything together once Kawhi left. And I understand, it was weird transitioning from a winning culture to a bottom culture. The Spurs hadn't experienced since what, 98, the 90s.
Yeah.
And Spurs fans were just like, what the heck? Like, why are we going through this? And like I said, I enjoy the championship runs and it's beautiful, but I'm glad seeing the team grow because when the team starts winning again, which I believe they will, it's gonna be awesome to see and look back at the moments when we're like, dang, remember when like they were doing bad and we were talking about, why the Spurs, should you had those fans saying they should move, fire
Or
pop, this and that
tank.
tank. And
Yes.
have another generation come. I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm proclaiming another big three is coming, but you're gonna have another generation, the next generation who's younger than us, go through the same thing that we went through as kids, as young people, seeing them go through those championship runs. I still remember, where I was when they won their first championship, and it gives me chills thinking about it. So I think that's like the best thing that I've took away from the season. And the Spurs may have another bad season next year, but it's just part of the grind, part of the process. And
Mhm.
I know Spurs fans hate hearing that, but it is what it is. And maybe we do go to free agency and try to attack it and build a championship contender. You always have those weird scenarios. Maybe, the scenario that every Spurs fan doesn't want to hear is Kawhi comes back, but you never know.
Hombre.
No, and I've heard fans that would welcome Kawhi back.
I would welcome him
No.
back. And that's a question I brought up. And I'm like, if he's going to help you win a chip, you will
Yeah.
go ahead and get that Kawhi jersey back on and get it out of the trash.
Vicky,
No.
Kawhi Leonard, one of the top players. Imagine his defense with this team.
Honestly, I don't know that he's a top player anymore.
He
It's
would
been
be
too
going,
long.
Kawhi.
No, but I mean that's the most beautiful moment. I think my favorite game I went to was when Patty came back. It was kind of sad seeing Patty leave, but I feel like he deserves a ring, and I'm really rooting for him. Even though it's looking kind of tough for Brooklyn, maybe next season, but I'm really rooting for him to get a ring because he deserves it.
Yeah, I guess my favorite moment thus far in the season has just been watching the team grow. I've been to some of the games as well, and I went to the Lakers game, and that was a low point because that was the first meeting that the Spurs had against the Lakers, and Lakers fans just came out in full effect, and that kind of just told you the direction of what's happening with this team and how the Spurs fans are kind of, they were kind of abandoning the team, and that's when they weren't doing very good, and now you look to see what Spurs fans are doing, and I think they've come to terms with, we do have some good pieces, and the Spurs could use some help. This team could use some help, but I think at the end of the day, they're like, okay, this team is what it is. We're just going to go ahead and start supporting them now. And I think that transition from just full on tank to now, you know what, whatever happens, happens. But we like the trend of this, the way that the team is going, the direction the team is going, as far as the development of the young core. To me, that's been the best thing to see so far this season. The way that they've progressed as far as the fan base has, so we're not the Spurs, I'd say, or maybe a couple seasons away, but the fans, and I'm a fan as well, we all sit down and we look at the team, and we are very harsh sometimes, but we got to remember that these are people at the end of the day, and we got to be patient, so as long as fans can be patient, things will happen, but again, you just got to see that growth is happening. It's happening before your eyes and going in the right direction. So regardless of what happens this year, hey, if they don't make the playing game, at least you have the NBA draft to look forward to and see what happens then, so that's about all we have, for today's episode of the Spurs Rewind. But as we bring the show to an end, you can go ahead and follow one Vicky Vic on the Twitters at the Vicky Vic, as you can see there, the Vicky Vix, VIX. And you can also follow Rocky. And I did spell your name right this time.
Yeah.
You can follow Rocky Garza Jr. at RoxJR. Not Roki, but Rocky. And you can also follow me, Joe Garcia, on Twitter at Two Shots Podcast. So for Vicky Vic and Rocky Garza Jr., I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Spurs Rewind. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out. Peace.